The Indo-Pak War of 1965 and 1971. Since the British no longer had control over India since 1947, Pakistan and India had many controversies, most noticeably over the land of Jammu and Kashmir, a beautiful piece of land that was stationed between Pakistan and India. This issue first began in 1956, when India regained control over the land. Because of this, Pakistani troops started to patrol the area ruled by India and caused attacks of both countries in their posts on January 8, 1965. On August 5, 1965, thousands of Pakistani soldiers dressed like local Kashmiris spread around different areas of the land. India had also counteracted by capturing three very important mountain positions of the Pakistani army. By the end of August, both sides had had developments in their attacks. Pakistan closed in further on cities like Uri and Poonch, and India had captured 8 kilometers into Pakistani-administered area of Kashmir. But when India officially crossed the international border on September 6th, that was when the war officially began. This war had caused many things to happen that had not happened since the respective countries' independence. India and Pakistan engaged in aerial combat, and the 1965 war had had the largest tank battle since World War II. And it was no shock that the US was involved in this war. A declassified document shown here confirmed this. Origin. This was a United States telegram sent from New Delhi on October 15, 1965, with a man named Lucas. Purpose. This source's purpose was to seek out what was happening over in Kashmir, and who and how they were taking over the land and what they were doing with it. Value. This U.S. telegram was secretive and classified, so it gave the value of knowing that the U.S. confirmed the existence of hundreds of infiltrators in the state of Jammu and Kashmir during the events leading to the war. It also confirmed whose side the U.S. was on. Limitations. This U.S. telegram was secretive and classified, so it gave the value of knowing that the U.S. confirmed the existence of hundreds of infiltrators in the state of Jammu and Kashmir during the events leading to the war. It also confirmed whose side the U.S. was on. In the end, the United Nations called for a ceasefire. According to BBC News UK, after more than 3,000 soldiers from each country had fought and passed, India ended up with 3,900 kilometers squared of Pakistani territory, and Pakistan had taken 650 kilometers squared of India's territory in Kashmir. The 1965 war wasn't the end of the conflicts between Pakistan and India. This war was provoked by the Bangladesh Liberation War, which was a war of military conflict between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, which established the Bangladeshi Republic. This war only lasted 13 days, which was considered to be one of the shortest wars in history to date. During this war, India and Pakistani forces engaged in fighting in the western and eastern fronts. Throughout November, thousands of people marched across West Pakistan, calling for the country to crush India. India answered back with a military buildup on the border of East Pakistan. The war came to an end after the Pakistani armed forces signed the Instrument of Surrender on December 16, 1971. It was estimated that 300,000 to 3 million Bangladeshi civilians were killed. According to Academia.Education, this genocide was considered one of the largest in history. One soldier that fought in the war explained what it felt like. In his book, The 1971 Indo-Pak War, A Soldier's Narrative, Pakistani Major General Hakim Arshad Qureshi, a veteran of this conflict, noted, "We must accept the fact that, as people, we also contributed to the bifurcation of our own country. It was not a Nazi, or Yahya, even a Mujib, or a Bhutto, or their key assistants, who alone were the cause of our breakup, but a corrupted system and a flawed social order that our own apathy had allowed to remain in place for years. At the most critical moment in our history, we failed to check the limitless ambitions of individuals with dubious antecedents and to thwart their selfish and irresponsible behavior. It was our collective conduct that had provided the enemy an opportunity to dismember us." Origin. This was a book called The 1971 Indo-Pak War, A Soldier's Narrative by Major General Hakim Arshad Qureshi. Purpose. This quote's purpose was to show the effects of war on a soldier and how the citizens felt about the war. Value. The value of this quote was to show how corrupt the Pakistani and Indian government and legal system were. and how they caused many casualties, just because the government chose to be selfish and irresponsible, which led to genocides. Limitations. This quote doesn't show us what his job was in the war, or what assignment he was given that made him think of the corruption of his government. We also do not know about the broader perspective of this book, and it is also missing a perspective of the war. My question was, to what extent was the Indo-Pak War crucial to the rivalry and conflict of the Cold War? America had always close relations to India, as they did provide assistance during both wars. But the United States and United Kingdom did supply arms to Pakistan during these years. After the ceasefire of the 1965 war, both India and Pakistan accepted the Soviet Union as a third-party advocate. Negotiations in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, completed in January of 1966, with both sides giving up territory and withdrawing their armies from the land. The answer to this question is that the two countries had no effect and were not crucial to the Cold War, but more that the Cold War had an effect and was crucial to the two countries. India and Russia had found common ground through their economic, political, and military fronts. Because of Russia's support, India built military muscle, and according to Times of India, even today, over 70% of specialized military equipment is supplied through Russia. But because India stayed away from American relations, they may have lost on an earlier economic boost. But when Pakistan fell into step with America during the Cold War, they started to receive aid, and with aid, the Pakistani military could think about combating with India's powerful machinery. The Cold War helped Pakistan have an everlasting effect on India. But we know that India and Pakistan are still fighting over many conflicts, including the Kashmir War. But in the end, we know that the world cannot live without war.